Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Rave Social Podcast. I'm your host, Jaden, and today we have Natalie. She is a mindset and business coach. We've had her on the podcast before. It was really awesome, and we're excited to talk to her again, just kind of about this past year and some different things about coaching, mindset, showing up on social media. So we're super glad to have her. And Natalie, why don't you just tell us a little bit about what you do, who you serve, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for having me again. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to be here. And yeah, I'm excited to also dive into like a reflection of this past year because I think we
Yeah.
talked back in March, I want to say. So
Yeah.
much has happened in between, and so much
Oh,
has changed
yeah.
in the online space and everything as well. But yeah, like you said, I'm a mindset and business mentor. I really focus on helping kind hearted, ambitious women because I noticed that just being a business owner, being kind, it's so easy to one, get taken advantage of, two, to doubt yourself and question your worth and your abilities. And so that's who I really focus on helping because I know that was me once upon a time as well. And it can be really difficult to run a business. So I focus on mindset, what I call heart set, which is really meditation and emotional regulation and business strategy, and really combining that to focus on not just the business, but also the human behind the business, because we know like if there's a mindset block, it's going to be so much harder to move through if that is present. So I really look at it from like a very holistic perspective.
Yeah, I love that so much. And you're also just so like well spoken. I love
Oh my
listening to you
God.
teach and talk through
That's the
things
best
really
compliment
because
ever.
you really it's so true. And I do feel like in the coaching business space, there's an overabundance of coaches that are like just fucking do it,
Mm-hmm.
hustle. They're just so like masculine in my
Yeah.
opinion. And they're just they're kind of harsh, and that's okay. They're good for some people, but like I actually enjoy a little bit more softness and a
Mm-hmm.
little bit less of that kind of energy which you really bring to the space, and I think is so needed. So congrats, you're doing it.
Thank you. Oh my God, that was literally the best compliment I've received in ages because that's something that I always struggled with and never saw myself as uh, having as a strength, is like being able to articulate myself. That was always something where I felt like I needed to strengthen it. And so to hear from
Yeah.
you that you actually see that as a strength in me, I'm like, oh, wow. Like, okay, thank you.
Yeah,
I'll accept that.
absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. And since the last time we talked, like you said, so many things have happened. I mean, we were
Mm-hmm.
talking in person a couple weeks ago about it, but I just feel like 2024 has been such a crazy year for me personally in the way that I'm showing up on social media. I remember this time last year, I was hosting challenges that were like 30-day posting challenges, which
Mm-hmm.
I still stand by that. If you need that, that's okay to
Yeah.
do. But it was very like go, 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 go energy. And like my hooks were really harsh. And I don't know, I was just in that time, it was really useful for me. Like my account was growing, people were loving that. But then as I went into 2024, I really felt like that was not how I wanted to show up anymore. And I was like, there has to be another way
Mm-hmm.
to do this.
Totally
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, I felt similarly where even to what you had said previously about that like masculine energy and that go, go, go and the harshness, I even felt myself adopting that identity and I became so disconnected from who I was, where I was like, I don't even connect to the parts of me that actually make me me and that people love me for and know me for. And so is it really hard to like get, it's almost like a washing machine or like a wave online where you like kind of get caught up and sucked in it and then you get
Oh,
tumbled
yeah.
and then you get spit out and you're on shore and you're like, where am I? And then that's
That's
when you have your moment.
literally, yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, that's literally how this year has felt. Like, I started 2024 in a coaching program that was great, but I did feel like I got caught up in it, like exactly what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I got caught up in like making it so like systemized and methodical and like
Yes.
programmed. And like, that's honestly just like not how I work and function. And I value that in other people, but for me, like I need to be able to do what I'm interested in and switch up my ideas and stuff like that. So then I did feel like I got caught up in that. And then it was difficult for me to, once that ended, to be like, okay, like, wait, what is it that like I want? Like I had to like re-separate myself and be like, I don't even know what it is I want to be talking
Mm-hmm.
about, sharing about, like what even are my offers? Like I had like a real moment where I was like, "Oh no," like that burn it to the ground feeling where you're like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to have to start over, which luckily I got myself out of that and didn't actually burn it down, but it does feel like you can get so caught up, and then when you don't want to do that anymore, you feel like so lost.
Yeah. You kind of like lose yourself in everything that they're doing and teaching and take that as truth. And then in that, you
Yeah.
almost lose your own truth. I even had a moment like this yesterday where I had received some advice about like, I'm in a lunch right now. So she kind of was like, oh, just like show up day of, see how you feel. You don't have to have it all planned out. And then yesterday, I mean, thank goodness I had it all planned out, but I know
Yeah.
myself and I was like, I actually like to have things planned out ahead of time so I don't have to sit there and think about it and have this like, I know on myself and I don't do well under time pressure. Where
Yeah.
if I show up day of, like I feel that pressure. If I have it planned out in advance, I have this like resource bucket to pull from. And in that moment, I was like, this is again just another moment. I get to do things my way. I know what works for me. And
Yeah.
that's so much of what it's about is just doing what works for you.
I don't know. This is an assumption, but I think it's like you start to think like they are correct,
Yes.
period,
Yep.
end of
Yep.
discussion. And so, like, then things turn black and white where it's like, I'm either doing this or I'm not, or they're
Yeah.
right or they're wrong. But, like, really, there's a lot less, like, duality in it. There's way more like gray area where you can kind of
Mm-hmm.
pick and choose from different coaches, like the things that you do like and agree with and feel good for you, and the things that don't. And you're still going to be successful if you don't follow their recipe like to a T.
100%. And I think that gray area is actually what's really beautiful because it allows you to be unique and to stand out. Because if you're taking a little bit of this and a little bit of that, you're also doing what's authentic for you. And that's also what's going to draw in the right people, draw in the right clients, the right community, and everything like that. So it is taking everything with like, maybe part of this is true for me. Maybe none of it
Yeah.
is, but I think we do take a lot of it on as like, it's black and white and you're either doing it or you're not. And I do think we're kind of preconditioning content. It's like, if you don't have this strategy, then you're not doing it the right way. And
Yeah.
that's where it kind of starts. And then you take on, okay, well, I'm trying this strategy and maybe that's not what's right for me. So,
Yeah. And like, just also, like, a side note on that is like, just because that strategy is working doesn't mean it feels good to you. It doesn't mean it's
yeah,
aligned with your business. Like the strategies that I've used in the past, like, they were working. They were working
yeah,
great, like plenty of leads, income, everything. But it was like, but I don't feel good. Like, Jaden doesn't
yeah,
feel good. So it
yeah.
doesn't really matter that the strategy is working or it's not. It's, I don't feel good about it. So that is, I think that's also an important element of it, is to make sure that it feels right for you too.
And I feel like feeling good is the best strategy for you. Like,
Yeah,
that is the strategy.
yeah, absolutely. And it's not to say that like it's always going to be easy. Like, I want to put a
Right.
disclaimer on that. Like, it's still like might feel hard sometimes, and like you might want to try something that at first you're like, this is uncomfortable, whatever. But overall, I think, you should really shoot to like enjoy what you're doing in your business and in your content.
100%. And if it's not, then it's like maybe it's not right for you, or maybe there's something else to be explored and things like that, where it doesn't have to be one way or the highway. There's so much
Yeah.
gray area in between. I think what's really interesting too is we both, and this might be me making an assumption, but I feel like we both had our ways last year where we felt really good in how we were running business, got into coaching and mentorship with other individuals, and then came back to
Yeah.
ourselves. It's like
A hundred
literally
percent.
just a rotation.
Yeah, and like I do think that there's so much value in coaching, but
Yeah.
we both did do the same thing, and like it was like I lost myself
Yeah.
in the coaching because also it was kind of a crutch like for me because I
Mm-hmm.
was like, well, if I just like do whatever this person like basically tells me to do, then I won't have to like come up with it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
But like ultimately I that made me not listen to myself. Like
Yeah.
it made me just forget myself, which is never good. That's never worked for me. Like it's the same
Yeah.
reason I had to leave a marriage. Like it was just like you have to listen to yourself like at the end of the day, and
100%.
these people could definitely help you, and like I've coached clients, I understand, but like I always just still think you do have to listen to yourself and find what works for you at the end of
Mm-hmm.
the day, I think.
I totally agree. And I'd be curious to hear like what the biggest lesson for you was. Maybe is coming back to yourself and trusting yourself. I know for me, it really changed the way that I approach, even as a coach. It kind of was a 360 because originally I had wanted to just really help people find the answers to their business within. And I kind of came back to that again, where I'm like, it's really just about helping people uncover what's true and right for them, not me telling them what the strategy is or XYZ, which was kind of passed on through the coaching industry a little
Yeah.
bit. But it's completely changed the way that I approach at my approach as a coach in terms of just really helping people connect to their own truth within and helping them really rely on their own strategy and their own uniqueness instead of XYZ. So I feel like that's been a huge
Yeah.
lesson for me.
Instead of like a blueprint. I mean,
Right.
social media and content and businesses, all of those things are like not that blueprinted. There are
Right.
areas, right, that like everyone has to do taxes. So like maybe there is a blueprint for like how you do your finances. That
Mm,
could be a part of your business that's like that. But as far as like offers go, how you're working with clients, the content you share, like I think people want a blueprint, but there's
yes.
really not one.
Yeah.
And that is hard. Like that's hard to like get through your head a little bit. But it's true. Because
That's
it's just so
so true.
different.
Yeah. You should coin that.
Um
Post that on threads because it's so true.
Post it on
It's so
Threads. We'll
true.
see if Threads is a beast, by the way. Oh my gosh, we can get into that later, but wow. I don't know how I feel about that place anymore.
Wait, what
But I would
happened?
say okay, I'll just get into it right now. I don't know. I've just had multiple instances on Threads, and it could be because for me, it's like a place where I'll like just kind of post like a spicy thought or something.
Mm,
I don't think through it quite as much as I would on like Instagram, but I do feel like there's a lot of negativity there. Like, and it's more like spreadable than it is on Instagram. Like, you
mm,
don't. I don't, at least I don't get like hate comments and stuff on Instagram. I have, but I don't normally get that. But it seems like every time I post something on Threads, like there's a major hater. It's very weird. Like,
interesting.
I don't know. I've definitely also
Yeah.
been a hater, so there's that. But like I recently posted a thread about like the wedding industry because
Oh, right.
truthfully, the wedding industry does have some major flaws. And like, as a bride who's planning their wedding, like, I'm in the weeds. Like, I'm literally doing it right now. And as I've been planning it, I've noticed like there's communication styles within the wedding industry that I'm like, you guys are totally losing really good clients by doing what you're doing. One of them, for example, is photographers will not post pricing on their websites,
Yeah.
which is just weird because I would weed myself out. Like if I know you're going to be 10K, I'm not going to inquire because I can't afford 10K, and like
Yeah.
it's not worth the photographer's time to even talk to me because I'm going to be like, no, you know? And they won't even post like price ranges, which that's something I do in my business is I say like I start at this rate on my website so that people know like that's what you're going to have to that's the minimum investment, right, to work with me. Anyways, blah blah blah. This is a long tangent, but I was kind of sharing some flaws of the industry, and a lot of like vendors came in really defensive of
Oh,
themselves. Like, well, this is why we do what we do. And it's like, that's great. But I'm telling you, as a client,
customer. Yeah.
that's not working. Unless I'm not your target audience, which could also be true, right? But it's
Yep.
funny, like they were really defensive. And I was like, that's weird because when I see feedback for social media managers, I always like want to take it into consideration. And when I get client feedback from my clients, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to consider that because that's your experience. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
in your shoes. So I don't know. But I don't know. It's just like
Yeah.
on threads, I feel like people are just so, it does feel like there's like a, people feel really defensive there. And then people easily triggered. It's very, I don't know. It's crazy. How do you feel about it?
I mean, I definitely feel like there is a lot of conversations happening there, and maybe more in the
Yeah.
argumentative sense where people are wanting to have debates. They're wanting to post spicy content, as you said, and just like
Yeah.
stir the pot a little bit. And in stirring the
Yeah.
pot, you maybe attract some people. You like push away the people that you don't want to call in, and you attract the people that you
Yeah.
do.
So
So
true.
it is interesting where it is like a spicier platform in that way. I feel like I haven't posted much that's spicy on there, so I can't really say. Like, I'll post like random like walks or thoughts on my walks. So it's not really
Yeah.
calling in like crazy things. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, don't forget to look up at the sky.
Yeah,
Like just a
you're
random
like
thing.
stuff like nobody could be mad about. That's so true.
Yeah.
And like truthfully, like my content totally could trigger a discussion or
Yeah.
a debate. So I have obviously like responsibility in that. But one that I did post that I was like, what is going on? Like I posted my like recurring monthly expenses, like mostly subscriptions like Zoom, Riverside, all that
Yeah.
stuff. And I was like, tell me like what I are any of these like consolidatable? Like, why do I have so many subscriptions? And people were ripping me apart. Some people were nice, I will say, but people
Yeah.
were ripping me apart, like responding, being like, "Why would you pay for like Gmail and Dropbox? Like that is so dumb. They do the same thing." Like comments like that,
You're
where I'm
like,
like,
I'm just asking a question.
"Whoa."
This is why.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a second. Like, I wasn't asking for you to call me an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? So
Just
I don't
looking for
know.
some help and
Anyways,
answers, all good. No, but it's
that's my
really
vibe on
interesting
threads.
point. Like what you brought up in terms of how people sort of see the post, how they get activated by it, because those activations are really just something within them that they're feeling activated by. It
Yeah.
has nothing to do with you. It's just that you
Yeah.
happen to be the one that said something that triggered something in them. But you could take a different person who's not going to be triggered by that. So it really is
Yeah.
their responsibility to look at that trigger, to look at the activation and be like, ooh, what don't I like about that? And it has nothing to do with
Yeah.
you.
And I
Yeah.
feel like, going back to the wedding industry one, I do feel like there are probably people in the industry that saw it and were like, actually, that's a good, like, that's good feedback or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Right.
they're just not the ones that are like click clacking away on the keyboard. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
silently being like, oh,
Agreeing. Yeah.
that's interesting, or maybe I should look at my whatever. They're just not responding. So that is also an element of like that you have to consider. The people that are
100%.
gonna like be commenting or not. It seems like the negativity is louder than
Yeah.
the the positivity, but the positivity is still there.
It's just more like silent, quiet
Yeah.
positivity. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
seems like it.
I feel like the ones who are so in defense of the pricing and everything like that, there's probably a reason there where they feel uneasy about it, or it's stirring something up in them that they have to look at, and they feel
Yeah.
like they have to vocally defend it in order to defend it internally about it being right, even though you actually could be right about it, and they maybe
That's
deep
so
down know
true.
that. So
Yeah, that's
yeah.
also super interesting. Honestly, that like literally also that is a big part of 2024, like threads. Like that is new
Yeah, it's new
to
and
this
like,
year.
what is it?
It is like truly the wild west of social media.
Totally. I know. I'm
I
like,
don't
what's
know.
coming next? Like, okay, there's threads, and then I just feel like there's something brewing behind the scenes that's going to come out. I just feel
There
it.
will, it just like it's going to evolve, which is also something funny that I feel like this has been a big lesson for me this year, is that like being comfortable with the fact that it's not going to be the same. Like getting
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with the fact that like the same content you shared 3 months ago may not be the same content that is going to work now. And like being okay with that instead of wanting to fight it, I
Yeah.
think was a big thing for me too. Is it's like, nope, you're just going to have to evolve, and that's okay. It's only a bad thing if you make it be a bad thing.
100%. And I feel like it's always evolving and always shifting. And you do have to be kind of aware of trends and things in that capacity and paying attention. Like, I think to a certain extent, you want to look at what other people are doing just so you're aware without falling too deep into it, because there
Yeah.
are things happening in the behind the scenes and there are changes going on. I think
Yeah.
this year a lot too, a huge shift has been in the space of authenticity. I think authenticity has like risen so much in a beautiful way. Like, I'm so happy that it has.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to know how last year I feel like it was really about putting on a facade and really being like the most strong, put together person and things like that. And now I feel like it's a lot softer and it's a lot more of people being transparent, people showing behind the scenes, and just being more of their authentic self, which is so cool to see. I feel like that's a really good change that's happened.
It is, and that is one piece of like your strategy that like won't ever really have to change,
Yeah.
which I like too. Like I like that personal brand, that authenticity, that type of thing, because it's like that exists outside of trends. And if you like
Mm-hmm.
stay true to yourself in that way, like the trends and all of that stuff matters less. One thing that I've shifted for myself this year is following way less coaches. Like I unfollowed a
Yeah.
lot of coaches. I unfollowed a lot of people in my industry or muted or whatever. And then I've looked for my pulse on what's going on comes from creators that are like comforting to me. So they might be
Mm.
funny, they might be beauty bloggers, they might be influencers, like all these different areas. That's where I'm getting my pulse from, not people in my own industry, because I found that that made me feel overwhelmed. Like they would post something
Yeah.
and I'd be like, oh shoot, like I need to talk about that, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, you don't. It's okay.
Yep. I felt the exact same, and I've definitely been even personally considering like unfollowing so many people, and I haven't quite gone to the point where I'm like, oh, it feels kind of rude, or I don't even know what it is yet. I have to dive
Yeah.
deeper into the resistance. But it is so interesting. I feel like who you follow kind of creates your own bubble, and definitely on my coaching account in particular, it's a bubble. It's a bubble. And it took me
Yeah.
switching to my apparel company's account and being like, oh my gosh,
Like,
everyone here
look at
is
all
doing.
this.
Yeah, I'm like, look at all this. And also, all these people are popping off and they're doing exactly what everyone else is saying you shouldn't do, but they're doing so well. And that was the moment where I was like, everything just goes out the window. Like, I'm done listening to everyone and everything.
No,
Like,
it's so
it's
true.
so true. It's crazy. Like, we're just in this little bubble and you pop it and you like look outside your bubble and everyone is doing everything that you're told not to do. And I'm like,
Like,
cool.
it literally becomes an echo chamber. Like,
Yes,
that's
yes.
what I was
Yeah.
like, literally, like, this is the type of stuff that was driving me crazy. Hashtags are dead. Hashtags are not dead. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Bob, like, all of that was killing me deep in my soul because I felt like I had to talk about that or else I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be seen as an expert. When in reality, who gives a fuck about hashtags?
Say it louder.
Like, they literally don't matter. Like, in the big picture, they don't matter. Like,
Yeah.
okay, take me to jail. Hashtags are dead. I don't know. But here's the thing. It's just like, why are we worrying about that? Like, use hashtags, don't use hashtags. Like, literally, who cares? Let's talk about what message you're trying to get across. Let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about how you can serve your community. Let's talk about building a genuine connection. Like, who cares about that?
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's interesting because I'm going to argue a little bit against that. I do think hashtags matter to a
Okay.
certain extent from like the
Yeah.
SEO perspective, where if you think about people searching on Instagram, similar if they were searching on Google, like the
Yeah.
keywords do matter, but to what extent where you actually like lose the overall arching message and the heart that's in it because you're
Exactly.
putting in and you're so worried about the minute details where it's like, okay, are you just worried about the details of the things or let's focus on the bigger picture? And that's where it's like,
Yes.
yeah,
I actually
yeah,
just agree with you 100% on that. Like, that's why I was sick of seeing stuff like that because I was like,
yeah.
this doesn't matter to the
In the
scale
grand
that people are
scheme.
giving it
Yeah.
power. Like, I was just like, if we're really worried about that and you're going to spend even an hour every month like worrying about your hashtag bank, like just don't.
Yeah.
Especially if that's holding you back from like actually putting content out. It's just like, what are we worried? Let's just like, it's okay. It's okay.
And it's so funny how it's like all these minute details, like how long is your reel, and are you using the right audio, and are you like using the right hooks? Like there's so many minute details, and I've even had this conversation with friends who want to start their own business, and they're like, okay, but
Yeah.
on socials, like, do I need to do this and do I need to do that, and how do I boost this? And I'm like, these are all like small things, like you said, like that we actually need to look at the bigger picture and focus on like what is your overarching like core message, like who are the type of people that you're wanting to attract. There's so much more to
Yeah.
it. Those are like the nitty gritty things. Like
Yeah. And
it'd be like baking a cake and basically picking, okay, I'm going to use this brand of flour over this brand of flour, even though at the end of the day, it's just all flour. Like, you're still getting a cake.
yes. If this is you right now, it's okay.
Yeah.
But I think people like really worry about that. Like they worry about posting time, they worry about hashtags, they worry about the trending audio and that stuff. And it's like that might be like literally the last like 5 or 10% of your content. Like the important part is not that, but you're giving that so much power over your ability to like create and post content. And it's like, yeah, optimization, right? We want to optimize, we want our content to go 5 or 10% farther, but it is only 5 or 10% farther. And you really
Mm-hmm.
need that foundational 80, 90, 95% to be there before that stuff
Yeah.
will really even come into play.
100%. And I think it'd be interesting to get curious around, why do I feel like those details almost need to like be perfect, or like why am I so focused on them? Like is there an underlying fear
Yeah.
there of what if this doesn't perform? What if this doesn't land? What if someone thinks this is stupid? And does that need to actually be unpacked? But it's actually presenting as, oh my gosh, like what if I use the wrong hashtags? But really inside they're saying, oh my gosh, what if I don't get the people that I want? And that's actually the fear that's at play. But it's showing up
So
as what
true.
hashtags.
I mean, that is for sure. I think if you were to ask people on a deeper level, what is it?
Yeah.
And it would be
Let's
like,
dive a little
you
deep.
know, they're afraid that the work that they put into the piece of content won't give them the impact that they want, or like that. It's not necessarily about the hashtags, it's that they're scared
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to bring in the client that
Exactly.
they want.
And it's good to acknowledge that though, because then it takes the power off of the
Yeah.
hashtags and places it back into what actually is there underlying. And then you can fix the sort of root cause and show up and be able to post a beautiful post without worrying about how it's going to land. And that's that.
Yeah. That's so
Yeah.
true. Have any other lessons like come up for you
Oh my
this
gosh, so
year?
many. I feel like the biggest one has been coming back to myself. For sure, if I had to like recap that, and I do feel like again that has completely transformed how I approach just being a coach as well with my own clients. But really strengthening that self trust as well, and just knowing I've got it all. Like I have it all. And I think a huge thing for me this year, actually over the past 2 years, was really celebrating myself and acknowledging I'm actually really good at what I do. And that used to be something that I had a really, really hard time doing and I did not acknowledge. And now it's so evident. I'm like, I'm pretty good at what I do. I'm actually really good at it. And now I don't
Yeah.
have an issue saying that. But in the past, I definitely would have been like, oh, I'm okay. Or, just like the watering yourself down. Um, and now I feel a lot more stable in saying that and stable in myself
Yeah.
as well.
Has that made you show up with more like ease and just more confidence?
Absolutely. And this is even another lesson that kind of triggered up is I think at the beginning of the year, I was also lost in that hustle mentality. And things like when I was working so hard to try and make things work, things actually worked
Yeah.
less. And when I
Oh,
worked less hard, things actually worked better, which has been the best lesson. It's just, I had
yeah.
to learn it through a lot of different ways. And I had to have like those breakdown moments, which are breakthroughs, and really sit there and look at, okay, I'm pushing myself to such a place of anxiety that isn't me. Like people know me as like a very grounded, calm person, and how I
Yeah.
was presenting as myself, I was like, this is not me. Like I've actually lost touch with myself. So I had to really get back in touch with myself and to really acknowledge like things can just happen, and I have so much evidence of things just happening out of nowhere and it just
Yeah.
being easeful and that happening. So that was a huge lesson this
I
year.
had a very similar experience. Like, and it's honestly a lesson that, like, I don't know what it is. Like, karmically, I have to keep learning it. And I'm still like
Going through.
so tempted. I'm always so tempted to go back into hustle, go back into do more,
Mm,
do more, do more. But what's funny is the last 2 months have been my highest revenue months ever in my business. And I have traveled more than I ever have. Like, I've literally been like not home for most of that time. I haven't even been like selling my offers. Like, I honestly have been doing not that much. And the opportunities have just come to me. The inquiries have come to me. The clients have come to me ready to sign. And truly, I think that's because I like let go. Like, I literally told my
hmm
fiance, I was like, I cannot do this. The rate in which I'm going, I can't. It's not sustainable. I need to take a step back. And literally, as the words came out of my mouth, is when all of it started flowing in,
Love
you
that.
know?
I
And I just
love
think
that.
it's true. It's so tempting, though. It's so tempting. Like, you just see the hustle culture, you see people posting, like, do more, launch your freebie, like all this stuff. And it's like, shoot, should I be doing that? But in reality, again, you have to come back to yourself. And myself knows that, like, more white space, more time off, less
hmm
clients, less hustle is what I need.
A
And then
hundred
obviously I've been
percent.
rewarded. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like that's a direct reflection of, and I love that you talked about this too because it does get to create evidence for other people that it gets to be easy, and I think it is
Yeah.
some societal conditioning, like we have to work hard to get what we want, and we good things come from like going through difficult times and from hard things. It's just so much conditioning, which is why you probably also feel like wanting to go back to every now and then because there is still
Yeah.
maybe a little bit of a tie there that just has to be like completely severed, um,
Yeah.
which is so
I
interesting.
It is like so societal, and an example of this that I saw literally yesterday on TikTok was there's an influencer that I follow. She's in college. She's done really well for herself. She's very young and she has made a lot of money. And she went and bought her dream car, which was like this cute little Porsche. And people in
Cute.
her comments were like, "You don't deserve that. You didn't work hard enough."
Right.
And that comment right there just shows that, like, people don't you probably, I probably, all of us struggle to feel like we're deserving of a big beautiful life without working ourselves to the
Mm-hmm.
bone, when in
Spot
reality
on.
you don't have to do that. She's allowed to make that much money being an influencer and get that nice car. She does deserve it. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
how hard or not hard she worked,
A hundred
you
percent. And
know?
it's just seeing people like that who are rewarded for not even working so hard. that's the evidence too. Like, it's like you
I'm
don't
like,
have to
don't
work that
you want
hard.
that? Yeah,
Yeah,
like the
like
person leaving that
what?
comment, it's like, don't you wish you didn't have to work as hard to also have that Porsche? Like,
Well, that's where you
that's
get to see the
weird.
projection, because you see that
Yeah.
that comment was a projection, and that's what they don't allow themselves to have or to be. They're judging her because they secretly want that, but won't allow themselves to actually have a Porsche without doing so much hard work. So that's their
Yeah.
own thing that they need to work on. It's so
Yeah.
interesting.
It
But
is
yeah,
so interesting.
like when you learn like the projections and the judgment, you just learn everyone is just saying what they actually don't allow for themselves. But it's so beautiful to see how both of us have even seen that working less and experiencing more ease actually brings more opportunities and things work
Yeah.
better for you in business. And I truly believe it. Like, I had to kind of uncover, where did this belief come from? Like, that things have to be hard and they have to be difficult. And that's also one of the reasons why I kept investing in coaches and I kept investing in courses and things like that, was because it wasn't enough. And like, it couldn't be that easy. There had to be something more there, that it just, there's no way it's that
Like, what
easy.
you were
Like,
missing something.
yeah, exactly. It's like you're missing something because it's too easy, and it has to be harder. But that belief then makes your days like crazy, and it just makes things so much harder versus, okay, well, I actually can do all my work for the day in an hour. I can post my stories, write an email, and do a post on socials, and that can take me an hour. And like, that's
Yeah.
fine. And like, I can spend the next 7 hours enjoying myself. Like, it can.
Yeah. Like,
Or you
we
don't even need to
don't
post on socials. Like, it can be that too. Like, my other
totally.
business
I
runs
mean,
itself. So,
one thing that I do is like, if I have, like, I want more white space on my calendar, right? But then when I have it, I'm like, I gotta fill this time. I gotta fill this time. And it's like, those are so obviously like way contradicting each other, but it is, I think, that feeling of not allowing yourself to have what you want. Like, that's what I
mm-hmm.
want. I want the white space. Like, why wouldn't I let myself have it? And another element of that that I feel like is, people feel like, going back to the things have to be hard.
Yeah.
No. Doctors, yes, they have a hard job, but they don't make all that money because they have a hard job. They make all that money because they're good at what they do and they know
Mm-hmm.
that they have the answer, right? Like, that's what we're paying for, not really their time, not really like any of that. Like, they don't have to work so hard. They just know what they know and they charge the appropriate price for that.
100%. And there are people out there who literally like have the most easy of easy businesses and are making millions of dollars. And going back to the bubble, like, we get so caught up in the bubble where we see, and again, maybe this is our bubbles that we're just like, our
Yeah, it
bubbles were
could
like
be.
this.
Tell us.
It
Tell
could just
us.
be our bubbles. Like, is this just our bubbles? Whereas, like, you have to work hard and you have to do X and Y amount of time. And if you're not here, like, something's wrong or whatever. But literally, like, there is a whole other world out there, like a whole other world where someone is just sitting on their couch and passively making sales every single day. Okay, I just realized I was describing myself a little bit. I'm like, wait, I do that. Okay.
she's like she's like hold up, that's me.
Yeah, I was like, wait, okay, I'm describing myself. But like, on a grander scale where people are making millions and millions of dollars. I'm not the millions of dollars, but
Yeah,
so it's interesting to see how it just can be easy. Like, you can have one super simple product offer, whatever, and all it takes is like one moment or one thing, and it's just, that's it, and you're done.
that's
And
your
like,
thing. Like,
it happens. Yeah.
yes, it does happen. And like, it can totally happen for anyone at any time. And I think like this is a bit of a mindset thing, but it's like, when you start to see that, and instead of looking at social media like as a place where you go and compare yourself and see how your competitors are doing or what they're claiming they're doing, instead of
Mm-hmm.
that, if you look at it as like, what is possible, if
Yeah.
that is possible for them, that is possible for you times 1,000. Like, let it be an expander, not a contractor, and not a
Mm-hmm.
comparison place.
100%. It's interesting because we look at people and we compare ourselves and we're looking at everything that we don't have. But really, it's this golden shadow of like our submerged possibility and our submerged greatness of what we actually want for ourselves. So you can look at them and realize, like, oh, what is it that I love about them? Or what is it that I'm actually comparing myself and wanting for me? And it might be something that's very doable or fixable. Maybe it's like, oh, I love their aesthetic. And you can easily go, okay, well, I just want a better aesthetic for my page. Those are changes you can implement instantly.
Yeah.
Um, Even just like from the comparison aspect, we get so future focused instead of looking at everything that we already do have. And so when we feel in this place of like lack of like, oh, I don't have that, instead of looking at everything that you do have from the past. And it's so easy to get caught up in that. And then that's where you don't feel as good about yourself because you're looking at everything you don't have instead of looking at everything you do. And
Yeah.
even from the comparison perspective, like you're comparing yourself to someone 5 steps ahead, but there's also someone 5 steps behind you who's comparing themselves to you.
Yes, exactly. And I was going to say, like, it's so easy. This is so cliche. And I know people say this all the time, but like, it's so easy to go look at these people who are successful and be like, it was just like either it was just so easy for them, which maybe it was, or maybe it wasn't. You don't know. But also, like, you're just disregarding and discounting everything that they know, all the work that they
Mm-hmm.
put in, the investments, the risks they took, all of that. Like, you're just disregarding it and just being like, they're just so successful. And it's like, I mean, are you just going to discount like all of the stuff they did to get there? Like, that's kind of cheap.
And you don't see the full picture. Like you have no idea behind the scenes. They could be just so anxious or struggling with really difficult things. And on the forward facing, everything looks so bright and put together and like amazing and wavy gravy. But really on
Yeah.
the inside, maybe they're not actually happy. Maybe their soul doesn't feel fulfilled, but they have all the money and all the things that quote unquote present as happiness. So you really
Yeah.
never know the full story either.
Yeah. I think that's like just another element of coming back to yourself is
Mm-hmm.
like if you see something like that and whatever it triggers you, maybe it doesn't trigger you, whatever, like I think it's important to just look at that and then come back to yourself and be like, but what do I want?
Yes.
What feels good for me? Like, do I want the house and the car and the money,
Mm-hmm.
or do I want, and you can have it all, but or do I want more time off and just like to be able to go to yoga every morning? Like, what is it
Yeah.
that you want? Because I do think how you end up in that like unhappy place, but you're presenting to everyone that you're happy is by doing things that you think other people find
Mm-hmm.
valuable instead of what you find valuable.
100%. And it's so interesting because everyone talks about like getting freedom in their business and building a freedom based business. But it's in the pursuit of building the freedom based business that you lose the entire aspect of freedom. Like, freedom is found in your day to day, not at some point in the future when you have the money. My boyfriend even sent me like a
Yes.
TikTok, and it was like some parable of this this fisherman in Mexico, and he was like fishing, and this guy from New York came up to him and was like, oh my gosh, this fish is amazing, I want to help you open a factory and like we can sell more fish. And he was like, okay, but then what happens when we sell more fish? And he's like, well, then we expand worldwide, and then we're able to sell even more, and then eventually you sell your company and you can retire and relax on the beach. And he's like, well, that's what I'm already doing with my days, is I'm like spending time with family and relaxing at the beach and fishing. So you're basically just like working so hard to achieve the same goal that he already has right now, and just like in the moment. So he was like, what's the point? And that's exactly what we're kind of taught, is like hustle, 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 get to the point where you get everything that you actually have in this moment now.
Yes. Oh,
It's
that like
wild.
really hit for me because I feel like I've even been doing that a little bit, like just with like my house and where I live. Like we rent a house in a neighborhood that I really love, and the neighborhood is so expensive. Like we're just lucky we get to live here. And I think
Yeah.
I do that sometimes where I'm like I like overcomplicate it and it's like, but you're living in the neighborhood right now. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I want to live there one day. Babe, you literally live there right now. Like, what do you mean? You are
Yeah.
living there. So like, why aren't you enjoying that to the extent that you would if you lived there? You do.
Yeah. It's like
You
a
know?
future. We're kind of taught that like happiness lies in the future and happiness lies in like the achievement, which is then
Yeah.
where we think that we have to get to the achievement. But when we get the achievement, we don't appreciate it. And so it's really about appreciating like the success, the freedom, everything that we already wanted to have in this moment because you already have everything that you are wanting rather than
Yeah.
appreciating it at some point in the future. And that's why when
Yeah.
you get there, a lot of times, like when people climb the corporate ladder, like that same version kind of exists in business where you climb this ladder to get to a point where you kind of have everything that you wanted in this moment, where you just wanted the simplicity, you just wanted the ease, you just wanted the day to day to enjoy with your
Yeah.
family. And you kind of get to that point where you're at the top of the ladder and you look back and you're like, I had it all along. Like it
Yeah.
literally was
Yeah.
always there.
One thing that I need to get back on, but has always like helped me with this is I have like the 5 minute journal. I don't know if
Oh,
you've ever
cute.
like
Yeah,
used
I've heard
that
of it.
one, but it's like the first thing you do is write down like three things you're grateful for, like one thing you want from the day. I can't remember like all the little things. I have it sitting on my desk because I'm like, I'm going to write in that. But it does help you really appreciate, like, it's a short little gratitude practice of just appreciating like what you have right now. And then it also
Mhm.
gives you an opportunity to like basically put it in a request with the universe to be like, and this is also
Love
what I
it.
want today. Like, I'm
Yep.
so grateful for what I have. And like, I also really would enjoy like X, Y, or Z today. And it's honestly crazy when I have used it consistently, it's never not come true. Like anything I've
Love it.
ever, written in there because I'm in the energy of I already have it, or
Mhm.
I appreciate what I already have because I'm in that gratitude. And then you can say like, and it's okay to want more, but I also am so happy with what I have right now.
I love that. I love that. And
Yeah.
I totally agree. Like, it definitely is the appreciation for what you have now. And so, even when we're comparing and focused on the lack, like, from the manifestation perspective, the universe wants you to appreciate what you already have. Like, what you already have is something that you wanted to manifest in the past. Like,
Yep.
it's truly,
Yep.
that's what
It's
it
so
is.
true.
It just is. And so it's like I gave you all the things that you asked for, but you're not appreciating it. So why would I give you more? So appreciating what you do have. And then it's like, okay, well, let me bring more your way. Like, thank you for acknowledging everything. But it's like feeding you food that doesn't make you full. If you're just always going to be hungry and always wanting more instead of being satiated with what you already have and what you're already being fed, it hits different.
It does
Yeah.
totally hit different.
I
Oh,
love
I
the
love
5
that
minute journal
so
though.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. I've also done a gratitude practice where like I just type out like I appreciate blah, I appreciate blah. Like I just type out I appreciate everything that I have or that I want. So it's like a form of, if you guys are wooey, it's a form of like future casting where you
Mm.
basically appreciate the things that you want as if you already have them. So I appreciate that my clients are loving and respectful and are obsessed with me. If you don't have that and that's what you want, you write that out. And then in your body it becomes true. And so then you're way more open to actually being receptive to clients that are like that. And you can do it with things in your life too, like dating, your house, financial goals, like literally anything. And that is another practice that I really love that honestly I need to do it more because it really does work.
It totally works. I love like doing. It's kind of different from affirmative statements where it's called lofty questions. So you phrase an affirmation essentially as a question. And the reason
Okay.
why I like that is like you can immediately feel it in your body, and our minds are they're kind of like ChatGPT, where if you prompt it with the right question, you get the right answers. So if
Yeah.
we ask like, why is it that everyone is so mean to me? Like you can feel it immediately in your body, and you're also going to be fed these answers of like why everyone's mean to you. But if you're like, why is everyone that I come across so nice to me? You feel better in your body, and you get like a list of 10 different reasons why everyone's so nice to you with
Yeah, like what are you
your
searching for?
affirmations. Yeah, if you're like, oh, why is it that all my clients respect me? Like, it feels really good in your body when you say it as a question, and you feel really empowered as well. So I like to do
Yeah.
those as well. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I need to like get in a routine and start doing some of these things. Not that I need to, but I want to, and I do think it would make, things
Make a
better.
difference.
It's
Yeah.
funny because it's funny how you know what works
Yes.
and what doesn't, and you know
Yeah.
what's right for yourself, but like sometimes you don't do it. It's like a form of self-sabotage.
I mean, I would get curious around that and be like, okay, why is it that I know the things that I need to do for myself, but I'm not doing it? Like,
Yeah.
what's the underlying
Like
thing there?
do you
Yeah.
not deserve it? Like do you not what is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
That
I
is
would get
so
curious.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
I'd love
goodness.
to hear what comes up. Like, it's so interesting to dive into that. And maybe it's about being deserving. Maybe it's about just actually things being easy. You never know what's going to come up, but I'm sure as you uncover that and dissolve it, it's going to just like open the floodgates.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of every episode, remember I always ask, what's one piece of advice you wish you could give your younger self?
Mm.
So think of that. I want to respond to this for like the first time ever, but I
Yay.
think sometimes we ask ourselves this question and we think like, oh, my 16-year-old self, my 8-year-old self, my whatever-year-old self. And like, because of the theme of this podcast episode, I feel like what I would tell myself a year ago is to just listen to myself, like make sure that
Mm-hmm.
I'm checking in with myself and not losing who I am, my message, my energy just because someone has a strategy or something. Like I just think I would tell that to myself, like just make sure that you listen to yourself.
I'm going to echo the exact same thing. Mine was like, trust yourself. Like, you already know everything that you need to know, and not to lose yourself in everyone and everything else. But yeah, really to trust yourself. And that's the number one thing. I would tell myself that a year ago. I tell myself, my younger self, that I would
Oh,
tell that
me
to everyone. I
too.
just trust yourself. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I love that.
I
This
love
has been
that.
such a good episode. Honestly, I've loved it so, so much. Thank you
Me
for
too.
being on. And
Of
we'll make sure to
course.
link all of your stuff. So if you guys want to work with Natalie, I mean, you probably are like about to go sign up after this episode after seeing how amazing she is. But we'll have that there for you so you can work with her. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Yes. I appreciate
Have a good
you.
one.
First, I want to say thank you so much for being here and listening to my podcast. It means the world to me, and I just appreciate this community more than you could ever know. If you love this episode or a previous episode that you've listened to, go ahead and head to the leave a review link in the show notes and leave us a review. We would really appreciate it. And we're so glad that you're here. Thank you.